Hello, this is Dave. I've got another game here for you. This will be a SlavDefense. The ECO code is D12. This is a correspondence game that was played at GameNot.com. And let's see how the game progresses here. White plays D4, D5, C4, and C6. The first two pawn moves are the signature moves for black of the SlavDefense. The idea is to reinforce the D5 square. Next is knight to F3, knight to F6, E3, and now bishop to F5. Some variations of the SlavDefense, black will play E6 and then later develop possibly the bishop to either A6 or just to B7 after some pawn moves. But in this variation, black decides to play his bishop outside the pawn formation, and he plays it to F5. Next move for white is knight to C3, E6, and now knight to H4. White begins a idea here in which he wants to exchange his knight for black's right squared bishop. You'll see this in many games, and this is the variation I want to show this particular game. There are many variations of the Slav, but this is one that, like I said, you most probably run into many times. White will want to get rid of this light squared bishop, and he will chase it down with his knight. And let's see how black handles it in this particular game. After the knight move of knight to H4, black plays bishop to E4. And this is designed to give white some kingside weaknesses in his pawn formation. And the next move is F3. White obliges, chasing the bishop back, and now bishop to G6, knight takes G6, and H takes G6. So you can see white has doubled black's pawns here, but more importantly, this H file is now open for black, aiming at the H2 pawn. So even though white might think, oh, I got rid of his bishop, he's also opened up a very important line for black to attack the white king if he should decide to castle kingside. The next move in the game is queen to B3, attacks the B7 pawn, queen to C7 defends, and also now you can see another importance of this opening of the H file. Black is now attacking the H2 pawn with his queen and rook. In order to defend it, white plays G3. You can see now that white's advanced two of his kingside pawns. There's possibly some weaknesses there that black might be able to exploit later in the game. Next move is bishop to D6, developing the bishop. And you could possibly be looking at, of course, a sacrifice here by black. With this, whoops, not too good with my arrows lately. Bishop could take this G pawn, and if white would retake, of course, black would be able to retake, or I'm not retake, but capture the rook with his H8 rook. And also, before he maybe would take the rook, after bishop takes G3, black could retake with his queen with check, which might be the better move, and then capture the rook with his rook. So there's some threats beginning to build up because of these pawn weaknesses on the king side and the open file. So white responds with F4. Next move is knight at B to D7, and now bishop to D2. And white develops his bishop to the only square that's really available to him. This bishop is his bad bishop. You can see he's locked behind all these pawns here on the dark squares. The next, which is result of all these pawn moves that white has made in the opening. It would have been a lot better for him if he could have possibly, before he made some of these moves, maybe developed his bishop outside of his pawn chain. Another option could have been, of course, with white. Of course, if the queen wasn't here, maybe moving this pawn up, and of course developing the bishop to B2, which is another way of developing this bishop in a game. The next move of the game is black, and he plays castle's queenside. And now white begins his attack against black's king. He plays c takes d5, opening the c file, which is a direct line of the black king. Black responds with e takes d5, and now knight to b5, attacking the queen. And of course the knight cannot be taken, because if he would take it, you would see, like for example, c takes b5, rook to c1, attack. The queen is pinned. The rook has the queen pinned to his king. Of course, black could move either his bishop or his knight to c5, saving the queen, but of course he'd be losing a piece. And of course, black saw this threat, and instead of playing c takes b5, he retreats the queen to b8. Next is rook to c1, of course, bringing the rook over, maintaining this pin against the black king. Next is knight to b6, and now white plays h4. Black plays rook at d to e8, lining up his rook against white's king. And now bishop to h3, and white brings his last piece out with tempo, attacking the black king with check. He also now has control of this long diagonal. And black plays king to d8. Now next is knight takes d6, or knight takes bishop, queen takes knight, and now white castles kingside. Now black has pretty well put a stop to white's attack on the king side, and now he's going to begin attack of his own against white's king. And the first move he makes is g5. He offers a pawn in order to open up some lines against the white king. White plays bishop to b4, attacking the queen, and black retreats the queen to b8. And note that black keeps his queen the dark squares, which are the subject of the attack by black's pieces. He wants to be able to use this queen, and the dark squares are, even though they're occupied by white's pawns, they are the weakest squares in white's position. White still has his light squared bishop that he can use to protect these light squares around his king. So black correctly and wisely keeps the queen on the dark squares. Next move is queen to a3, knight to e4. It's a good place for the knight. And now king to g2. And now black begins ripping apart white's position. He plays g takes h4, and rook to f3, h takes g3, and rook takes g3. Next is g5 again. Black continues to attack the dark squares, which are the weakest points in his camp. You might have, if we go back one move, you might say, well, why didn't white take the rook? Well, it would have been a good move. I think most players might have grabbed this piece, but actually the pushing of the pawn opens the position up more and brings more pieces of blacks into the game. So g5 is actually the correct move. Black takes, rook takes g5, and now rook takes h3, king takes h3, and black retakes the rook with his knight with check. And that's another reason why he played the intermediate move rook takes h3 2 moves ago. He wanted to retake with his knight with check. White plays f takes g5, rook to h8 check, king to g4, and now black starts putting on the final touches of his attack. Queen to ch check, king to f3, queen to f5 check, king to g2, queen to g4, king to f1, rook to h1 check, king to f2, rook to h2, And here white resigns because he knows no matter where he moves his king, he will be mated in at least 2 moves. So there was your game. I hope you enjoyed it. I know with these 10-minute limits, sometimes I try to squeeze them all in 10 minutes. It kind of cuts things short. But I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed bringing it to you. And until next time, thank you.